We live in an age of overprotective parenting, but is cotton wooling our kids a good or a bad thing? Dairy Flat School and Takapuna Primary are just two schools looking at relaxing rules in the playground and bringing back physical contact games like bull rush and tree climbing. God, the wowzers would be annoyed. Dr. Scott Duncan is the head of sport and recreation research at AUT University and has been looking into what happens when children aren't allowed to play freely. He joins me now. Scott, thanks for coming in.
You're welcome.
Have we got enough research to know just why it is such a bad thing that children aren't given time on their own to do dangerous things?
Yeah, well, I mean, it is a relatively recent phenomenon. I mean, back in the 80s and 90s even, kids were allowed to be kids and do things that we think of.
Actually, that's what it is. Kids were allowed to be kids.
Exactly, yeah. I can think of my childhood in the 80s. It was fantastic. You could roam wherever you wanted to in the neighbourhood. You could climb trees, do what you want. Really, probably from the 2000s onwards, we started to nip that in the bud a little bit and get a little bit protective with our parents. And it's come from a good place, but it's been a fairly recent societal change that's seen this happen. So we don't have heaps and heaps of evidence, but we do have a lot of good emerging evidence that there's a lot of good, really positive indicators that kids can get out of this sort of play.
Okay, so you're happy to say here that the evidence that you've seen points to the fact that it is a negative to overly protect children.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
What are the things that they're not learning? What are the things they're not going to be as good at because we overprotect them?
There's a number of things. There's resilience for a start, the ability to take a hit, get back up, keep going. Creativity is a big one, so be able to problem solve and use your brain. Brain development is a big part of it, actually. In fact, there's a recent study that came out that suggested executive function was a big benefit out of this as well.
Making decisions. Knowing that the decision you make is not being monitored, you're going to have to live or die by the decision you're about to make.
That's right. And a big one also is risk management. And we've seen some theories come out recently that perhaps some of the behaviours that happen in teenagers, and there's always going to be some risk-taking as in adolescence, but we suggest that if you expose kids to a little bit of risk at a young age when they can fall out of a tree and be relatively unharmed, it's better than asking them to do that when they're driving a car.
When I went to primary school in New Zealand, I went to primary school, and there was a swamp at the bottom of the playground, and we just all went straight into the swamp. And we knew that there was a whole range of different troubles we could get into. The biggest one was if we slipped over, we'd be told off and maybe even strapped for being dirty in the classroom. But no one drowned, no one got into horrendous trouble.
No, and I bet you had some pretty good memories down there as well.
Oh, fantastic. All the great memories.
Yeah, all the great memories. When you ask someone to think back about their childhood, it's not usually the things that we think of in terms of sport or structured activities.
Or even, God, I loved that supervised conversation we had sitting in the quad.
Yeah, well, it's the stuff you get into a little bit of trouble with. And I mean, not to sort of promote trouble, but, you need to give children a bit of opportunity to make their own call on things.
But you are sort of promoting trouble, and you're promoting trouble for the best reason. But obviously, lines still have to be drawn. We can't have kids going with a can of petrol in one hand and a lighter in the other to school.
Although we are trying to get fire back into schools.
But maybe not trying to get fire back into school, but organised fire.
Organised fire, yeah.
So don't set him on fire, oh God. So where do you draw the line?
Well, it does come down to somewhat, we're talking about schools here, the teachers have to make a call about the line they want to draw. Obviously, we don't want to be silly with the risk, but what we're trying to encourage is not to look at only the risk, look at the benefit side as well. So if you see a situation happening, you don't just automatically say stop it. Some of the most overused words that I think as parents we use is be careful. It never works. I've told my kids to be careful all my life. They're never careful.
Be careful is another way of saying don't have any fun.
Yeah, well, it can be that way. But there is a line. You don't want them climbing up pylons and all sorts of crazy things. So you do have to make a call somewhere where the risk outweighs the benefit.
It's interesting that studies that have been done with parents indicate that parents actually are ready for this to happen. Now, here is the thing when I was reading up about this, because I'm firmly in favour of doing this, that people have to know. The key is this is unsupervised. You cannot say, we're going to let the kids take a bit more risk. We'll just have some more parents watching or some more teachers on duty. The whole key with this is it has to be unsupervised for it to work. Do you think that society now, do you think parents now are up for that?
That one is we're a little bit further behind on that one. I think I've talked to a lot of parents in the last few years about this very topic, and they're generally fairly positive about having the play environment change at school so that kids can take a bit more risk. Allowing them to be unsupervised is another question again, and it sort of comes to this idea of independent mobility around neighbourhoods that we used to see a lot of, we don't see anymore because of, well, one, the fear of traffic, but also the fear of abduction. It's quite a present fear in most parents. So having kids unsupervised is quite a tricky one for most parents to get over. And I think in a lot of schools we're seeing, okay, well, they're taking a bit of a compromise situation here. They're going, okay, well, let's supervise the kids. Let's allow them to take some risks, but we'll have them supervised. And my advice to those schools is, yes, start with that. But once the parents are used to it and see that there's no massive chaos happening, then pull the supervision away.
Because as with so many things, the perception of trouble is always greater than the reality.
Always, yeah.
Scott, thank you so much for joining us. Pleasure talking to you, Dr. Scott Duncan, and congratulations for this research too. AUT School of Sport and Recreation Head of Research. Right.